So we'll get started on the Haggadah. So I'm going to pick up where I left off before, which is um, right before Mitchila Oivdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Aviseinu, after the four sons, the Sheni Yedei Elishol, then comes Yaakov Merish Chodesh, and then we said, Lo Yamarti L'Shosh Sheish Matzah Morah Menachem L'Fanecha. So last time we said over a vart from Rav Sternbach and a few others that the purpose of the Haggadah is ultimately mitzvahs. It's not storytelling. We always think it's about Vigadah Lebincha, but unlike many, or if not most other religions who are always telling stories, but it doesn't go anywhere, by ours it ends up with mitzvahs. The mitzvahs are tefillin, tzitzis, all the mitzvahs that are zeichel yitzias Mitzrayim. So now, but we're going to go in a different direction. What does this mean? So the Mepharshim say a very interesting thing. Oh, by the way, I just want to give you, for those that are kind of like with us for the first time in the Haggadah, so the purpose that I'm trying to do is for everybody, to have something to say over by the Haggadah, by the Seder, but also I'm trying very hard to say things that are shavel chal nefesh. Some people have young children, some people have older children, some people are going to be le'olenu pretty much by themselves. So these are things that I think everybody can say over on a number of different levels. So we'll start with that child should see matzah Morah Menachem L'Fanecha, like we spoke about a little bit before, that the father is not just talking. There are fathers that le'olenu, fathers and mothers that say, do as I say, not do as I do. But it's the exact opposite. The parent is supposed to say, do as I do. Don't worry about what I say, right? Follow the action. So over here we say that Yachom Rish Chodesh. So why can't you start Rish Chodesh? Because Rish Chodesh is just talk. But over here, when we get to the Seder, so it's Lo Yamarti L'Shosh Sheish Matzah Morah Menachem L'Fanecha. Lo Yamarti. In other words, I'm not just talking. Lo Yamarti. It's not just words. It is actual halacha l'maisa. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Mitchila Oivdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Aviseinu. So this goes back a little bit on something that I mentioned the other day. Who is Aviseinu? So I mentioned that the Brisker Rav holds that Aviseinu is Avram Avinu, because the Rambam writes in the beginning of Hilchos Avodah Zarah, "V'hu avad imohem," that it wasn't just that he had a bad father named Terach. He was a little kid, it's not his fault, but L'maisa he was Ovid Avodah Zarah. So how can we say this in the Haggadah? The reason we say it is the Pashut Pshat is because it says in the Mishnah in Arvei Psachim that Maskul B'Gnosim Masayim B'Shevach. You have to start with the bad and then you go to the good. But the Mefarshim, both Hasidim and Misnagdim, very interesting, both say the same thing, that this is a lesson to us that it really doesn't matter where we've been. Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us, that even the worst Aveira, there's nothing worse than Avodah Zarah, right? And the Gemara says Avodah Zarah is the worst of the three. So nevertheless, that Kadosh Baruch Hu kervanu hamakom avodah. So about tshuva, for instance, he might think that he ate treif and he did kol mini dvarim asurim sheba olam, but probably, I don't think he was in Mem Tashari Tumah necessarily. But Klal Yisrael was in Mem Tashari Tumah, and just a very few days and weeks later, so we were standing there by Matan Torah, and even before, by Kriyas Yamsuf, Rasa Shivcha Layom Ashel Roy Yecheskel Ben Buzi. We became Nevi'im. So then we blew it a little bit with the ego, but Lamaisa, we were all Nevi'im and we were on a high level. We were the Dar Deya that really was supposed to go into Eretz Yisrael. We would have gone into Eretz Yisrael right away. Mashiach would have come, but we were Oivdei Avodah Zarah. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you've been. Matters where you are and where you're going. Ba'asher hu sham. So, but there's a deeper pshat over here that I wanted to share with you. There's a beautiful mashal. I've said this mashal over a number of times, but I'd like you to hear this. It says, "Mitchila Oivdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Aviseinu," and then "V'achshav kervanu hamakom l'avodah." So a lot of people are in the kiruv business. There's a business, not a bad business, right? It's a good business. You're Makar of Jews. You know who's in that business? The Rebbeinu Shel Olam. Whom was he Makarev? All of Klal Yisrael. And at what point were we when he was Makarev us? When we were Oivdei Avodah Zarah. It's mamish like a pliadik of art. It comes to the Baal Shem HaKadosh. By the way, it's based upon a Baal Shem Tov, but it's like an amazing thing to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Makarev us from the lowest of the low. Makarev us. You look at So that's the Baal Shem Tov. So if you don't mind, I'm going to say over something that's just a little bit my own. A few things I'm trying to be machadish this year. It's a time for chiddush. We're all doing new things that we never did. So there's a pasuk in Kehillas that says v'karayv lishmaya. Kadosh Baruch Hu is close to hearing us. So there's a mashal from the Baal Shem Tov, and I've said this before in shul. You'll forgive me that now we're nobody's in shul. But this is on this pasuk. So I'll just say it very briefly for those that have heard it already. If not, you can like fill in the gaps if you haven't heard it before. So the Ashra of a Rebbe, who was a shtickle Rebbe of mine, says his name was the Ashra of a Rebbe, but his svarim are called Be'er Moshe and Eish Das. So mamish like full, not even just shelves, but entire bookcases of these svarim, Be'er Moshe and Eish Das. So he writes that this was the favorite mashal of the Baal Shem Tov. Now Baal Shem Tov, like the Dubna Magid, had many mashalim, but this was his favorite one. What was the mashal? There's always a king and a prince, right? So the prince went off the derech, the king kicks him out. And then there's some things I can't illustrate now because I'm using this kind of like a forum over here where if I get up, nobody's going to see me. But you'll have to figure it out for yourself. So the Baal Shem Tov says that this is a mashal that this prince. So he had a little bit of money in his pocket, and he had some plastic, he had some credit cards. You know, I'm modernizing it obviously from where the Baal Shem Tov wrote it like almost 300 years ago. But he kicked his son out. And his son was very upset that he was separated from his father, but he still had some money. The money ran out. His father probably cut off the credit cards. And then what happened? He's wandering around. He doesn't have what to eat. Nobody gives him any time of day. Nobody gives him any cover. Yeah, the prince. Sure, you're the prince. And it's getting very bad. And finally he decides he's got to show his father that he loves him, even if he's not going to let him in. So meanwhile, the father didn't want to let him in. So the father put a moat in front of the castle, and in the moat there was piranhas and and probably other types of fish, that could kill a person. And then beyond that, if somebody will get past the moat, so there were wild animals that would tear somebody apart. And then beyond that, there were people with spears and with arrows. Today we would say with guns. So what happened? This prince, so he decides he's probably just going to die. But he's got to show his father, and at least his father will bury him properly. So he takes a flying leap, and as he jumps over the moat disappears. And then he's a big leap. As he's going over the wild animals, wild animals disappear. And then the guys with the spears and the arrows, they disappear. And he lands in front of his father. His father gives him a big hug and a kiss. He says, that was all an illusion. It was all a mirage. I loved you all. I just wanted you to try. I want you to show that you care and that you want to come back to me. So that's what it means over here. And that's the pasuk in Kehillas, the Karev Lishmaya. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so close to us. So when we say this, what we mean is that if you take a look, the next pasuk is what is Achshav? Achshav is in every generation. Achshav is not 3,000 years ago. Sometimes we sit by the Seder, and by the way, the Briskerov, and I think the Chazon Ish also used to say you have to make the cheshbon 2448 after creation, and now we're holding 5,780 after creation, 3,300, whatever that is after creation. So some of the poskim held that you have to say that so you'll know how far we are from them. But the Achshav means now. The Achshav kervanu hamakom la'avodah. That's us. That's you and me. Because Baruch Hu was Makar of us. So this is something that I hope everybody can hear. I'll just tell you, Maisa, we're not at any kind of a normal Cedarhurst these days. But when I lived in Cleveland, out of town is different. So we had all sorts of people that are Cedarhurst. So one. This only happened 1 year, Rabbi said. I don't think it happened every year. We had a guy that just got out of jail, but not stam jail, like a very bad prison, a federal prison. Erev Pesach came to my house by invitation, by the way. And and he was probably the best guest we had, because he had the best stories, But Achshav Kervanu Amokim Avodasa, because Baruch Hu's Mekarev everybody. And if I remember correctly, I said over this vart at that Seder with the guy coming out of prison. Okay, now we're going to ask a very interesting kasha that was asked by Rav Sternbuch and the Belzer Rebbe, if I'm not mistaken, two very different people. Fabis and Misnagid. Rav Sternbuch is Ben Achaben from the Gra, and the Belzer Rebbe, right? Belzer Rebbe is from all the Belzer Chassidim, right? So, but they both asked the same question. It says in this part of the Haggadah, Vayom Yeshua Kol Ha'am Koyim Hashem Elkei Yisrael, Be'evan No Yoshua Aviseinu, Me'olam Terech Avi Avram, now, we spoke about this a little bit. I'm not going to repeat, Billy Neder, that we spoke about why do we have to know where Yitzchak, where Esav went to live, and we spoke about that by Richos, the Brisker Rav. I'm not doing that tonight. But it says that I took Avram sounds like Avram didn't want to go. What kind of things that Avraham Avinu didn't want to go. By the way, this is a Corona vart. I'll try to be mock them every Corona little shtickle, because I have a few of them, and I think this may be the sharpest of all of them, but I'm not sure. Ve'ekach. What's the pshat ve'ekach? So it says Vayom Hashem al Avram lech lecha. That's an entire pasuk in the Torah. It's an entire parsha in the Torah. And of course, Rashi explains that Avram Avinu was a tzaddik. He didn't know where he was going, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to go. So what's ve'ekach? Ekach usually means to take somebody like by the hand and schlep him, right? And the lashon over here is lakach bal karchay. Some of the Rishonim asked this kasha that what does it mean? So here's the teretz. The teretz is like this. That when Klal Yisrael goes down into Golus, so it's very hard to understand what was that all about. And for 210 years, forget about the 400 for a minute. Radu, we're in Golus, can't understand anything. And then we get out, all of a sudden we have the riches, and we're going straight to Eretz Yisrael, and we blew it with the ego, as I mentioned before. But we were supposed to go right into Eretz Yisrael. Every Yid was a billionaire, a trillionaire, a gazillionaire. We had, all these descriptions that are in Chazal, laden, these like 40 donkeys, 50 donkeys, all machlokes in the Medrash, laden with all the things that we got from Mitzrayim, and the Bizas Hayom was even greater, what we got by Kriyas Yamsov. But then we looked back and we said, now we understand a little bit what it was all about. And the Aruch HaShulchan and others say that now we also understand why we were Mitzrayim. We learned how to be Avdei Hashem. We wouldn't have known how to be an Eved. How does a person learn how to be an Eved? The answer is when you're an Eved to a human being, you learn how to be an Eved Hashem. Everything belongs to the Rabbi Shalom. So the Mefarshim say that the purpose of this is to be able to look back and to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a plan. And listen to this word, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a seder to the plan. And those of us that are going to stick around a little bit for the halacha, we're going to do the seder tonight. You don't have to stick around for this. I'll tell you now, don't worry. That the seder means that it's kadesh, ruchat, karpach. Why do we do that? Because sometimes it doesn't appear like anything makes sense. Did it make sense that there's a plague, that there's a pandemic, not just an epidemic, a pandemic that's doing what it's doing? Does it make any sense that Yidden can't daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom? And in fact, in all the earlier nisyonis that we had, so the teretz always was go to the shul and daven. Leichami boiba chadorecha, go into your chadorim. That means the batei medrash and the batei knesiyos and daven. Can't even do that now. So it doesn't make sense. So will it make sense in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months? I don't know the answer to that, Rabbi say. I can tell you that in a couple of minutes I'm going to be on a conference call with probably, tonight I think it's about 40 or 50 Rabbanim and Rosh Yeshivas, very chashuv people. I have something to say about that a little bit later on. You'll forgive me, but I'm going to say it very sharply. So when we have this opportunity, the Rabbanim get together, we all try a little bit of hashkafa. And everybody says, this is above my pay scale. We don't understand this. Lo navi anachi v'lo ben navi anachi. But that's why it's ve'ekach es avichem. Ve'ekach es avichem means that Kadosh Baruch Hu took Avram Avinu and said, "Come with me. I'm not going to explain it. I'm not going to tell you where you're even going. I don't even want you to understand it. All I want you to do is the will of Hashem." So I just want to add something from my Rabbi, and then I'm going to, say something a little bit sharp, and we'll move on. My Rabbi titled the following: Why are we mechanech a child? For instance, in the Haggadah, so we take even very small children, and we give them toys, and we give them. The Gemara says Kehillas ve'goyim. By the way, the Stipler's that was so literal that when he took the Gemara in Psachim that says that Mechalkin Kehillas ve'goyim, you give them, like, we don't even have this anymore, like roasted kernels of wheat and our walnuts. Maybe we have, but give a kid a walnut today, he's going to throw it back at you, right? Doesn't know what to do with it. So the Stipler gave it to his kids because he said, if it says in Chazal, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't ask anything. You don't explain anything. So anyway, so my Rebbe said that, why you mechanech a little kid? Why don't you wait till he's a little bit older, like at least bar mitzvah, and then you start teaching him? So the answer is this nekuda. You have to teach a child. I'm telling you, you have to shake this thing that grows on a tree. You have to shake it up and down and sideways, and don't even say a pshetel. Later on, you'll tell him the pshetel. You'll tell him, because that's what the Rabbi Shalom said. And we learned this in the Gemara recently in the Daf, that the question was, why do we do this? Because we do it. And then the first one said, well, what is that all about? Well, there's a pshat. Why do we burn this? Because we burn it. What do you mean? Because that's what we do. We do it to chayk, and the chayk ha-pesach, chukas ha-pesach, means that these are all chukim, and we don't understand. So the ekras avicha means it's a chayk, and that was the most important thing. Okay, so I just want to tell you another chayk, and I have to tell you this. I've heard that there's still some minyanim around, and there's some minyanim around that I don't begin to understand how people can do this. When Reb Chaim Kanievsky Shlita said that a person that runs such a minyan and goes to such a minyan is a reitzeach, is a roidif. And I'm begging everybody, please tell the people that are going to these things that they're ruining their lives. Reb Chaim says that there's no aveira bigger than being a roidif and being a reitzeach. So people have cheshbainis. You have cheshbainis when the Gadol Adar, the Zaken Adar in Eretz Yisrael says, and let's imagine all the Rabbanim in town said don't make minyanim, and the Rosh Yeshivas in town also don't make minyanim, and we just said the Pesach is also a chayk. And Zois Chukas HaTorah by the Paradum, it doesn't say Zois Chukas HaPara, it says Zois Chukas HaTorah, because the Torah is one big chayk. So I beg of everybody, try to convince, try to persuade nicely, sweetly. I will also try, Mirza Hashem, that these people should not ruin themselves with some kind of false cheshbainis. It's all the Yetzer Hara. I heard this from my good friend Reb Noach Goldbaum from Queens. Yid a tzaddik, a goy in oilam, a gadol ador, and he said that it's the Yetzer Hara that is sending these people to daven. If all the Gedol Yisrael can daven by themselves, Reb Malkiel Kotler told me right early on from this, says, I'm sitting here and I'm about to daven Ma'ariv b'Yechidus. And he has a couple of people in Lakewood that would have davened with him if he would have asked them to. And they would have still stood 6 feet apart. But the Gedol Yisrael said it's going to devolve into something worse. It starts off with a minion of maybe 15, okay? Let's say 15 is all right. And 6 feet, let's say that's all right. And all of a sudden it's 40 and it's 3 feet away. And anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't think the Gadol Adar has to explain himself. And I don't think the Rabbanim of a city or the Rav of a shul has to explain everything that he does. And no one person is allowed to overturn that, chas v'shalom, override it. It's not his chus, it's a tremendous, tremendous deficit. And I could say sharper, but I won't, because these are wonderful people other than this, and they really, they should, at this point, already know that it's the wrong thing to do. Okay. Now, v'etem lo yis Yitzchak. So, it's a very strange thing. It says, I gave Yitzchak. The word etain is from the word matana. A matana, I understand, he gave him Yaakov. That's a gewaldige matana. What is the matana? What is the gift of Esav? So the Mepharshim say an extraordinary thing, that the fact that there is a Yaakov and there's an Esav nearby. And the Torah says, Ru'u ma bein beni leben chami. You can see the difference. I don't know if anybody is reading the Ated these days. It's very hard to get. I got mine in the list second right before Shabbos. But I wrote an article. I was really not sure if I should write this, but I wrote an article in this past week's Yated about 6 things that we can learn from the coronavirus. So one of the things that, and they were all, by the way, very positive, not chas v'shalom any negatives, and no mussar. I'm not in the mood or in the frame of mind to give mussar to anybody. I can say what's usher. I just said that, but excuse me, I don't think that I want to give mussar. But on the other hand, so I said, take a look in the whole world. If you read, if you hear, what's the world worried about? So they don't have their plays and their movies to go to and their sporting events. Very few of them are complaining that they can't go daven with a minyan. So fakert Yidden that say that they have the ability to make a minyan, and then they're not going because that's Torah not to go, and then they're crying and they're yearning for a minyan. That's a gewaldige thing. And that's so gewaldig that's the difference between Yaakov and Esav. So therefore the Mefarshim say that the or is nicker mitoich hachoshech. When there's an Esav around, you can evaluate a Yaakov. If you look at a Yaakov all by himself, no, maybe everybody's a Yaakov. But if you look at a Yaakov, you look at an Esav, Esav's a Reitzeach. And even if he's not a Reitzeach, let's not talk about that for a moment. Maybe it's a dirty word, a Reitzeach. But the whole world, they want other things right now. They want to go back to the beach. And we want to go back to the shul. And that's a gewaldige schus for Klal Yisrael. So that's what it means. V'etel es Yitzchak, v'etel es Yitzchak es Yaakov es Esav. Because the contrast, the comparison and the contrast between Yaakov and Esav is a matana that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. And we find it in many places. You could say this at the Seder, that sometimes if we don't have enough zechusim, we say to the Rabbi Shalom, just take a look what's the difference between us and the rest of the nations. And there is a very big difference, Baruch Hashem. So now let's go on a little bit, okay? We spoke about last week that Yaakov Avanov went down to Mitzrayim. That's a tremendous zechus for us that we took the obligation to fulfill what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, that we have to go down. We knew what it entailed. We weren't stupid. We knew there were Yidden in the katzet. I use my mother's word. She also used to say this, the katzet. I knew my mother a little bit longer than I knew my father, and my father didn't want to talk about it. And then he was nifta. But my mother lived a little bit longer, Baruch Hashem, and I at least got to hear from her about the concentration camps. The Yiddish words was the katzet. And a lot of Yidden used to say, we don't know why this is happening, but maybe it'll be a kapara for somebody. And some Yidden even said, may it be a kapara for our brothers and sisters in America. I heard that from the Novominsker Rebbe in the name of his mother-in-law, that she said, that the Yidden around her said, may this be a kapara for all the Yidden that won't die. So when we talk about V'etel Yitzchak Yaakov es Esav, and it's a matana, the matana is also sometimes the suffering. And we're all suffering. Maybe she should help. We shouldn't just say it's a kapara. We should say it should be a kapara for those that need it, for those that Nebuch are very sick. Just spoke to somebody in the hospital. It's very, very ill. He was, Baruch Hashem, able to talk a little bit, and I tried to build him up, but it was very, very difficult. We have to daven for all of them. Okay, let's go further. Now, V'hisha Amda. So V'hisha Amda, what is V'hi? So there's a lot of talk in the world now. Right before this, if you remember, what was our worst thing that we were worried about? Was there's anti-Semitism. We talked about the anti-Semitism of all these various things that happen in Muncie and here and there. So now we're talking about something else. But I have to tell you that there are people that are worried from all the groups, from the right to the left and in the middle, that if there's going to be hundreds of thousands of human beings that will be unemployed, the way that it usually works economically is that we become the scapegoat. And one of the great fears that Yidden have is that this will generate anti-Semitism. I don't even want to chas v'shalom al tiftach peh what they might say. I don't have to put words in their mouth. They know what they want to say. But there's a little bit of it already, and everybody probably knows it, but there's been some. And it's one of the reasons that we have to be very, very careful that we do the right thing, not make a chil Hashem. But Vihi, what protected us? What protected us was what it said before, was Baruch Shem after Chassul Yisrael, v'avodim v'inu oisam arba me'eshton v'gam es hagoy she'avodu don anochi baruch chen yetzu b'chosh gadol. The fact that there are anti-Semites in the world. Shalei echad b'vad amad aleinu l'chaliseinu, ha'shchol b'dor dor amad aleinu l'chaliseinu. Kadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. The anti-Semitism itself is v'hi she'amdo l'aveiseinu v'lanu, that we didn't become assimilated and we didn't become intermarried totally. Obviously, in some parts of the United States, there's a very high rate of intermarriage. And I don't know who's going to be at anybody's Seder because, the way that it is now, we don't have these kinds of guests these days, if we have guests at all. But even to ourselves, we have to say, Vihi, what was good for us, throughout all the ages that protected us was the anti-Semitism. Now, Oimdim Aleinu l'chaleseinu, what that means, Oimdim Aleinu. So it's very interesting that Oimdim Aleinu, the Mefarshim say, the Brisker Rav, the Rav of Brisker, not the Brisker Rav is Rav Velvel. But Reb Chaim was also the Rav of Brisk. Reb Chaim used to say that halachi she'esav, halachi biyadu she'esav sign Yaakov, very famous Chazal, that it's halacha. Why is it halacha? Because he says that's built into their DNA, is that the world out there, I don't want to identify too closely. This is, after all, sometimes these things make the rounds, but there is anti-Semitism in the world. And oimdim, so oimdim means that that's their amida. Oimdim aleinu l'chaleseinu, that's what defines them. And Rav Chaim used to say a very interesting thing when he walked down the city of Brisk. He said, you know why these people are not beating me up? Zen and foila. It means that they're lazy. Because they're not anti-Semites, they're anti-Semites down deep. But they don't want to bother, they don't want to get into trouble because there's laws, but be'etzem, there's deep anti-Semitism. And V'hisha Amdullah V'seinu V'lanu, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us this throughout the ages. Let's go a little bit further now into one of the ultimate anti-Semites, which is Se'ul Omad, Mabikesh Lovan Arami. We're going to go till 9 o'clock, right? Okay. Se'ul Omad. So what did Lavan Arami do? So when did Lavan try to be Icarus? So I'll just tell you a shtickle pshat. It's partially mine, partially I got the idea from someplace. It says Lavan said to Yaakov Avinu, "Habanim bonai v'abonais b'noisai." So when he bikash lakakol, who are you talking about? His grandchildren. Lavan wanted to kill his grandchildren. So the Farshim say no. He wanted to say, I influenced them already. Remember when Yaakov Avinu took Rachel and Leah out to the field, maybe he was also afraid of, hidden mics. And he took them out into the field and said, Rachel and Leah, we got to get out of here. Why? Because he sensed a little bit already of the influence of Lavan. So that's when Lavan bikesh lakar es hakoil. So so it says Lavan bikesh lakar sakol. What he wanted to do was to uproot from us the Yiddishkeit, to uproot from us our kedusha, to uproot from us our essence, and that's Arami Ovid Avi. So Arami Ovid Avi means not that he wanted to kill us. Doesn't say la'aroi. Oived, he wanted to be ma'abed us. He wanted to ruin us. And we'll soon see that's really what Mitzrayim also wanted to do in a very interesting way. So now we're going to go into a little bit of a different shot. So the Gross says like this, what's the connection between Vehisha Amd and Selamad? So he says that says that doesn't mean HaKadosh Baruch Hu is matzlos from Gzeres. The Gross says in his Haggadah, he says like this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does a nace, and like Reb Chaim said, maybe this is where Reb Chaim got it from. The Gross was first, and the Gross Talmud was Reb Chaim Volozhiner, and from Reb Chaim Volozhiner came Reb Chaim Brisker, so there's a connection over here. And that is that the fact that there haven't been more gzeros against us, that itself came from Hashem. So it says, so by love and arami, so there was a gzera, but we didn't even know what the gzera was. He tried to uproot from his children, his grandchildren rather, not from Rachel and Leah. He knew that that's not going to work. So Rachel tried to get rid of the Trophim, the Avodah Zarah. But what Lavan tried to do was to uproot it from us. So I always say over at this point, at least in my Seder, I say, if you want, feel free to say it at yours also. So the a number of them Farshim yes, but it's Taka de Gra, and I think separately the Torah Tamima says this pshat. What do you mean? Why would the Goyim praise Hashem that Ki Gavra Aleinu Chasta, because we are free of the Gzeira? Doesn't make sense. Why would they be happy? We're talking about Kol Goyim. We just said that they're a bunch of anti-Semites. Zokt the Gra says like this. He says, now the Gra says, but I'm going to say it over from Chassam Sofer a little bit different. The Chassam Sofer is a very famous story. Chassam Sofer lived in Preshburg, right? So in Preshburg, it was a very, very progressive city, and they had police departments and fire departments, etc., etc. They had like an FBI. So the FBI discovered one day that there was a poor guy that used to get his like money, his disability. He was blind, Loyolenu, and he used to get his money from with the place where they dole it out, like the Social Security office of that time, the early 1800s. And then he would go. He had a special route that he went, and he would go home, and then he would buy things, send people out to go buy things. He had money. So meanwhile, these robbers, they were going to rob him, and they dug a pit. And they put something over it so that nobody else would fall in. But they were watching, and the minute that he would come, and that he used to walk over there, so they took away the part that was solid, and then they felt he was going to fall into the pit. They would beat him up, maybe even kill him. But meanwhile, the police followed these guys because they got word from some henchman or other, and they caught them. And they covered the pit again so that the poor guy, the blind guy, didn't know anything. No. So what happened? That the word got out, and the Chassam Sofer heard about this. So the Chassam Sofer said, so who should give thanks? The poor guy, the blind guy? He doesn't even know what happened. He doesn't even saved. But the robbers, they say, wow, how did anybody find out? So Allah Hashem Kol Goyim. The Goyim, they know, the Arabs, for instance, the Muslims that have been plotting against us for so many years, 70 years probably, but in recent years. So they know when they blew themselves up. They know when what happened was that one of their neighbors blew himself up. He pulled the wrong button and he blew up his own family. So we don't always find out about it. And Netanyahu once said that he can't tell all the stories because it would make everybody run away from Eretz Yisrael. But the prime minister knows, and probably whichever guy's at the helm on any given hour. So they know these secrets. So that's Halush Hashem Kol Goyim. Tzeluman Mabikesh Love Arami Lassos. Okay, now Arami Ovid Avi. How can we say Arami Ovid Avi? So this is also that all of our enemies have tried to make a period, a separation between the fathers and the children, and this means our spiritual enemies. And I'll just tell you a Maisa. You can tell this at the Seder. It's a geschmack little story. So, but first I just want to show you what this is. That what our spiritual enemies have always tried to do is to Arami Ovid Avi. What he wanted to do was to separate. Arami wanted to separate our fathers from the children. He was the grandfather, but he said, you're not going to have you children, your grandchildren. You're not going to have a father to listen to. You're going to listen to me. So our rule is that we have fathers, Baruch Hashem, and that's why we say Tata, Liebe Tata, Sheina Tata, ich will dir fragen, the fear Kashus in Yiddish. What does that mean? We try to stress our relationship with the previous generation. We're looking up to the previous generation. And we saw this before last week in one of the early parts of the Haggadah, but now I wanted to mention it over here. So there's a Maisa, the Briskerov. The way I heard the Maisa, there's two different versions of the Maisa. The Briskerov was saying over about Rabbi Kotler. He was so spoiled from Rabbi Kotler that he said, Rabbi, he was talking to the I'm sorry, Rav Shach was saying, not the Briskerov. Rav Shach was saying to the Briskerov that this Rabbi Kotler was a young man then. He said, his mom is bigger than a lot of the Gedolim from the Friedrich Kedar from the previous generation. And the Briskerov cut him off. And you're talking about Rav Shach and the Briskerov, two big Gedolim. So Rav Shach was like very kafur, very subjugated to the Briskerov. And Briskerov said, that's not possible. Each generation we believe in Katnas Adaris and Yerida Adaris. So that's what we do in the Haggadah. We stress our connection with our others. And I don't know if we'll be able to do it totally this year, but we have the four sons. We have all the concepts of the Arba Bonim, and it's always Bonim and Avaisam. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Vayogar Sham. So, very interesting. The Rambam writes, this is my own pshat for what it's worth. If you want to say it or b'shmi, or you can just borrow it. Take it. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Chometz Matzah, Perek Zayin Halacha Bais. So, he says about why are we saying all this? Vayogar Sham, Arami Ovid Avi, V'hu sheyidrosh me'arami Ovid Avi, at sheyigmor kol ha'parsha. You have to finish the whole parsha of Lavan. Which parsha? The parsha of Lavan. Now, why in the world? And all the drushes come from this parsha. Every word, like for instance, you say a little bit later on the rest of Haggadah. Gadol otzum v'rav. K'moshen v'rav v'ketzem v'chasada. V'yoreu osana mitzvah v'yanunu. V'yoreu osana mitzvah v'shanema. V'yanunu. This is all from the parsha of Lavan. So, why do we dash in this parsha? So I thought that maybe the Rambam is telling us a big chiddush over here. When the Rambam says, "Achi yigmor kol parsha," this goes back to what we said before. There's a seder. We're sitting at the seder. There's an order to things. So kol parsha means that we understand now that there was a cheshbon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Yaakov Avinu to go down to Mitzrayim, be covered gadol, and then we're going to end up in Goshen. In Goshen, we have a separate place. They used to call it the first Jewish ghetto. Yes, it was a good ghetto. It was a place where we were separate from the Mitzrim, and therefore we were able to be Mekayim. We were separate. So even though later we were Ovid Avodah Zarah, but we were separate. So that separation saved us. So that's the end of the parsha. The end of the parsha is that we go down to Mitzrayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us, as we said before. Okay. Another little pshat over here that I saw is a very interesting pshat, that we take every word and we darshan it. So somebody gave a very beautiful mashal. He said that when you look at a map or a globe, for instance, so you see like a dot. What's the dot? Very often it's a small country, or it's at the very least a city. So, but inside the dot, there's like a lot of people, and there's a lot of houses, and there's a lot of streets, and there's a lot happening. But every word, like every little squiggle, represents it could represent even a continent on a small globe. So this is what we're trying to say that the Torah is when we say the Haggadah. So we darshan. What do the Rambam say we darshan? Because every word counts, every letter counts. And that's a part of our animamins, that the Torah is loitei muchlefes. We're not going to switch it. We're not going to give it up. And every single thing in the Torah is worth thousands and thousands of pshatim and thousands of understandings. Okay, let's go a little bit further. So this is the famous story with the Chafetz Chaim. Rabbi say that the Chafetz Chaim had a guest, and the guest said, "Rabbi, where's your furniture?" He said, "Where's your furniture?" Right? Very famous story. The guy said, "What do you mean? I'm a traveler. I don't need furniture." The Chafetz Chaim said, "So am I." So this is what it says, that the essence that Yaakov Avinu put into our DNA is over here, that we're never any place l'shtakeya elologur. We're only temporarily. And look what's happening over here now. We thought we have all these things that we would have put into place for this Pesach, and kimat none of it. Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu's letting us have Sedarim. Kenai Nahara. But Baruch Hashem. But we don't have all the things that we had. We are sojourners in this world. Now, the same thing is with the next keta, the next line. So l'chayra, what do we mean that we're like stars? We are like a very small nation. We're very tiny. So the Baal Shem Tov gives a mashal. This is not the mashal I said before, different mashal. Baal Shem HaKadosh says that every star, it looks like something very tiny in the sky, but it's got its own solar system, and it's got more than a solar system. Sometimes it's got hangers on, it's got moons, and it's got all sorts of stuff going on that we don't even know about in black holes because it's a world unto itself. So every yid, he says, is every yid is an olam b'fnei atzmai, and that's why a person should say b'shvili nivra olam, because Baruch Hu made Adam, because Baruch Hu made one Klal Yisrael, and every one of us have inside of ourselves the ability to change the world. Let me just say over a little bit more. It says va'at erum ve'eria ve'eralach ve'eres mispeseses b'damoyach. So this is a very interesting thing that I think this year we can all say proudly. Kadosh Baruch Hu says in the Navi, when the Navi says va'at erum ve'eria, it's a pasuk in Yecheskel. So you were naked, erum ve'eria, and absent of anything. What's b'damayach yim? We say that at a bris milah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us two mitzvahs, dam pesach and dam milah. Why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us tefillin and tzitzis and something else? So the answer is because those two mitzvahs were done b'mesiras nefesh. Milah is, we say this, the Gemara is going to say, we'll have it Hashem soon in the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuflamet around there, in Perek Rebbe Les the Milah. Ki alecha haragnu kol hayom. Every day we get killed for Milah. What do you mean, how do we get killed? Because ki adamu anafish was spilling a little bit of blood, and that's mamish nefesh, that's we're giving up. And when they took the lamb of Mitzrayim, that was their avodah zarah. They could have killed us for that. Because Baruch Hu made a nace, and they didn't. That's the nace of Shabbos Haggadah, Rabbi said. But Lamaisa, it was a tremendous nace, and it was two things that we did b'mesiras nefesh. So from here, the Mefarshim say that the lesson of Va'at Erim Ve'eria V'Aimilach B'Damayach Chayi is, we spill a little bit of the wine at that point because we spilled some blood for the Carbon Pesach and for the Bris Milah. And also what we're saying is Kindlech, if they're Kindlech at the Seder for sure, but if not, we'll tell ourselves, this year every one of us are making the Seder with Mesiras Nefesh. It wasn't easy. On multiple of levels, it wasn't easy, and some people were mamish moist and nefesh, maybe even more than they should have. They went out shopping when they shouldn't have gone shopping, and they did all sorts of things that maybe they endanger themselves. But on the other hand, that's the mesiras nefesh that we have at the Seder. So I just wanted to finish off over here with the positive that our mesiras nefesh, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, should stand us all in good stead. First of all, for the chaylim that still need a refuah shalema. So we'll say the names of a couple.